So we are here to do a very amateur video about how to choose a topic or an issue when you're writing a persuasive paper about a work of literature. And in this case, we're picking Cinderella, the story, basically the Disney story, because all of you know that story by a movie or by having read the book. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is pick an issue. Genevieve, you want to tell us how to do that?
So the first step in picking an issue is you think of the characters in the story. So for example, I might think of Cinderella, her stepmother, and the prince. And then I would list some usually sort of major choices they made. So for Cinderella, I could say, should Cinderella have gone to the ball? Should Cinderella have left the ball at midnight? For the wicked stepmother, I could say, should the wicked stepmother have had her daughters cut off their toes?
Oh, we're adding the Grimm's fairy
Oh,
tale, which is not part of Disney, but if you've read Grimm's fairy tale, one of the sisters tries to get her foot into the glass slipper by cutting off her toes, the other tries to get her foot into the glass slipper by cutting off her heel.
Right. You could say, should they have done that? For the prince, should he have chased after to find Cinderella and all that? So then once you have those characters and the choices they made, then you just choose whichever choice you think you could argue well. And we picked and then once you've picked that, you don't say should, you start with whether Cinderella should have run away from the ball. And then you make a chart with affirmative, negative, and interesting, which is A and I, or Annie. And affirmative would be all the reasons that Cinderella should have run away from the ball. Negative would be no, all the reasons she should not have run away from the ball. And then interesting is for the facts that don't quite fit into either one, but you don't need to worry about it too much right now because we'll cover that more later on. So then once you've got it all set up, all you have to do is just brainstorm any reason for yes or any reason for no. It doesn't have to be a good reason. I mean, you could try to get good reasons, but you would just put down anything that might apply because we'll sort through it later.
Yes, so don't think too hard or worry about whether your reasons are perfect.
Yeah.
And you want to try to get as many reasons as you can. You need to have at least 10 for this assignment, but 15 to 30 is ideal.
Yeah. So, and then you number them just so that you can keep track of how many reasons you have. So I might say, one negative reason Cinderella should not have run away from the ball would be she would be leaving the prince, who she enjoyed spending time with.
I'm going to say affirmative. She would get home in time to have a good rest to do her chores in the morning.
A second negative would be she would be possibly ending her relationship with the prince. That would definitely put a strain on it, and that might be the end of their romance.
A second affirmative for whether Cinderella should run away from the ball was if the prince really loved her, he would follow after her and try to find her. So a test of the prince's true love. Or test.
A third negative would be she knew it was close to midnight, so the spell over her carriage was going to wear off, which would leave her to walk home all alone at dark, or at night in the dark.
An affirmative, she should have run away from the ball because her fairy godmother, who at this point is really the only one who's on her side, the fairy godmother said that she needed to leave by midnight. So obey fairy godmother.
A fourth reason she should not have run away from the ball is that she was running back to her house where she was mistreated, and the ball was the only place that people treated her kindly.
Although her fairy godmother treated her kindly. Not sure if there's anything else I can say about her fairy godmother. She knew she was going to be dressed in rags, and she'd be dressed in rags in front of. It would be embarrassing to be dressed in rags. How do you spell embarrassing, Genevieve? Thanks.
A fifth negative would be if the prince really loved her, he wouldn't mind that she would be wearing rags at midnight. So.
Feel free to give me some affirmatives, since you're better at this than I am. Let's see. Another reason that she should have left the ball, because if she left on time, her fairy godmother her stepmother wouldn't recognize her and mistreat her, so.
A sixth reason for negative would be if Cinderella stayed and was turned back into rags, or her clothing was turned back into rags, everyone would see how cruelly her stepfamily had treated her, and hopefully they would make a push to get her out of that situation.
I can't say that if she runs away she gets to keep a glass slipper, because she doesn't know that, and I can't say anything that Cinderella doesn't know prior to running away, right? It has to be based on choices.
Okay. Just like when you make a choice every day, you don't know what's going to happen after that, so you can only choose based off of the information you have currently. Cinderella should have left because all her animal friends that got turned into the coachman and all that would turn back into animals and would probably not make it home safely.
The animal friends, there were mice involved, so it would have been a big disruption if she stayed and the animals turned into. Isn't her coach waiting right outside? You're not liking this idea.
You can put on, anything goes.
Alright.
Seventh reason she shouldn't leave would be it's rude to leave without saying goodbye.
I'm going to go back to the fairy godmother. Let's see. Well, actually, this would be a negative if you think it's worthy. This is her one chance to be at a ball, and she stays. She gets to be at the ball a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other affirmatives that have to do with the prince? On my side.
Sure, I'll drop one in a second. A ninth reason would be the prince might think she was leaving because she didn't like him. Do you have, she would embarrass the prince?
Oh, she stayed.
Yeah, she cares about the prince, and she might embarrass him in front of everyone if they all saw that he had been dancing with a girl in rags.
My handwriting's getting really terrible down here.
Yeah, at this point I don't think we can really write down a whole lot more.
Okay. So ideally, you would have at least, at the bare minimum, 10. Since you've done so many of these, do you think 30 is overkill?
I'd say definitely 20 is
Good number.
a good number. And sometimes I find 25 is, you still have a lot of really good points. Going all the way to 30, oftentimes you have not as strong points.
Make it silly.
Yeah.
So once you have your affirmative and your negative, and later on when you learn to do interesting, you're often going to be able to pull points from the interesting and put them on affirmative and negative. So these points, hopefully you'll have enough good points that they're going to make up the you'll find a topic sentence or a topic that will make up the 3 paragraphs. This will become a 5-paragraph essay with an introductory paragraph where you state your thesis, and your thesis will become either Cinderella should have run away from the ball or Cinderella should not have run away from the ball. I know it's a very basic thesis, but we're looking for basic right now. So now we're going to go through and sort these 2 columns, and we're going to sort them into ideas that are similar. So, and you can use symbols, and the symbols don't matter other than you're just grouping things together. So I usually start with a check mark. So good night's sleep, it doesn't match with anything right now, so that she can do chores, so that's going to be a check mark. But this has to do with Cinderella's health, but it also, I think more importantly, has to do with her family situation. If you need to be able to get up to do chores, and otherwise, not like friendly chores that we all do, but she was their slave almost, so not a good family situation. Test of the prince's true love, that doesn't have anything to do with chores, look at that one, a heart. Obeying the fairy godmother has nothing to do with these, unless you think so. I'm going to give it a star. You didn't like this one, right? It would
No.
be embarrassing to be seen in rags at the ball.
That's a good one.
Do you think you can match? We could pull into the Prince's True Love,
Yeah.
maybe. I can change it a little bit. So this one I would have to change to, well, she might embarrass the prince, she might be embarrassed to be seen in rags at the ball by the prince.
Mhm.
By the prince. So once you start sorting, if you realize you need to change some of your ideas, you can. Stepmom would not recognize her and mistreat her, so that's gonna go with good night's sleep.
Check mark.
Yeah.
And then her animal friends would not make it home safely.
It's a new idea.
That would be a new idea, so we would give it a new
I'll
symbol.
give it a O.
Hmm.
Animals would have disrupted the ball. Put that with the animals.
Yeah, you could put that with animals. You could also put it with it. Yeah, put it with the animals.
And she might embarrass the prince. True love? I don't know. Maybe not. What do you think?
I don't know. It's hard because we did such an abbreviated Annie chart. Oftentimes when you're writing, like, you'd think of, like, if we said she should obey fairy godmother, then I could list obedience is a virtue. Cinderella has always obeyed. You can, like, kind of do ones that correlate to it. But since we're just doing the short one, we didn't write out all that.
But I'll put obedience is a virtue, sin for Cinderella always obeyed. Okay, so now we have 3 stars there. We could add something about the animals to get more O's. They wouldn't make it home to safety.
They're her best friends.
I'll just put a dot here. Animals, best friends. And you could add that the animals might have been killed by the guards, especially mice and, well, particularly mice, but I can't, it's different in different stories. But there was a horse, maybe geese.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that seemed they could all been killed,
Yeah.
possibly. So she could have lost her best friends. So we could, this would be an O. We could do another one about how the animals might have been killed. And then we only managed to have 2 checks. So she needs a good night's sleep for the chores in the morning. And her stepmom would not have recognized her and wouldn't mistreat her. Is there anything else?
Yeah, this is, you could split apart. Yes, she should have run away because her stepmom would recognize her. Yes, she should have run away because her stepmother would mistreat her. You could say her stepmother would embarrass her in front of the prince.
In some versions, she gets locked up afterwards. Well, she wouldn't have known that. There has to be a little bit of, we can write a little bit of what she might not know.
She knew her stepmother would punish
She
her.
knew what her stepmother was like, and she's probably locked her up before. So, it's something that's happened before.
Yeah.
Do you want to sort the negatives real quick?
Sure. So my first negative is she would leave the prince and he might be mad that she left. So I will give that a sad face. And then she would test the prince's love. I'd say it goes kind of match. He might be mad, his love would be tested. Sad face. She would have to walk home alone. That's a new idea. We'll give it a plus sign. The ball was the only place she would be treated kindly. That's also no idea. So we'll give it a new symbol, which is a squirrel. Then if the prince loved her, he wouldn't mind her bag, so she should stay.
Wouldn't that be with the sad face?
Yeah, probably still on the prince's love. Then people would see her and people would see her and mistreat her.
Oh, I thought that was people would see her mistreatment by her
Oh,
stepmother.
yes it is. Thank you. Okay. That
It's a new idea.
will be a new
Idea.
idea, so we'll give it
An X.
an X. It's rude to leave without saying goodbye. You could tie that into the sad face prince, but that could also just be against like good manners. So we'll give it a hashtag. This is her only ball. You could give that a spiral because that kind of correlates to the ball was the only place she would be treated kindly. It was like the only fun place she had, or nice place. And then 9 was the prince might think she didn't like him. That would connect with the sad faces, or it could connect with it's rude to leave without saying goodbye.
I would put with sad faces, but go ahead. So, let's go a little bit further because some people are just going to be still out when we. So, your assignment would be with the book that you've chosen, so sophomores and juniors actually are doing Cinderella. You need to come up with your own issue. It could be one that we mentioned but didn't use here. Come up with an affirmative and negative with at least 10 points and then sort it. And that's your assignment. And freshmen, you are doing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And you would could think of different characters in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So you could think of Lucy. Should Lucy have followed Mr. Tumnus, agreed to have lunch with Mr. Tumnus? He was a stranger. You could think of different characters. Should Edmund have followed the White Witch? Should Edmund have left the Beavers' home early? Should Edmund have chose to betray his siblings? The Lonely Witch and the Wardrobe was easier to come up with issues, I think, than Cinderella. And then, once you have decided on an issue, you're going to go ahead and write whether, da, 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 da. After you've gotten to this point, and you have, and we don't really have enough points. We ran out of space on our whiteboard. But we would decide, typically based on looking at whether your arguments are stronger for the affirmative or the negative. Often students have made their decision before they start the Annie chart. Have you ever changed, like you knew what you were going to do and then you wrote your Annie chart and you had a lot more points on one side and changed your idea of what you were going to do?
Maybe once, but it usually needs to be kind of a more complicated book or have a little more going on to have an issue that can argue both sides.
So once you, let's see, which side do you think we have? I mean, we don't have a really strong argument on either side because they're short, but I think because we added to the affirmative.
Yeah, let's go with affirmative.
Okay, so then you would change from weather Cinderella, you just take weather away the weather, and this is your, I know it's again basic, and but we're looking for basic. Your thesis now is Cinderella should have run away from the ball.
And there you go.
And then what would they do with, should we just stop here?
Sure.
Okay, we can.
We'll find out about writing an outline next time.